Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit from Petty Woman, who says, am I the arsehole for financially screwing over my sister after finding out she's close with my ex and his wife? Usually, I wouldn't take personal advice from strangers online, but everyone in my life seems to think that I'm a petty, scorned, bitter woman, which I probably am, and I need objective advice. My ex-husband, currently 43 male, and I, 43 female, were college sweethearts. For me, life felt perfect, and I trusted him completely. That's why it was so shocking when I found out he was in love with his much younger colleague. She was around 24 at the time. I won't get into details of how I found out, but the affair was well known at his workplace. When I confronted him, all he said was, I'm sorry, I tried really hard not to fall for her. He didn't seem sorry at all. It felt like he wanted me to leave him, so I did. That was 6 years ago. Our son was 4 then, and it was the worst time of my life. I honestly don't know how I got through it. And because I was desperate, I wanted him to fight for me, to fight for our family. But he didn't. He was quick to sign the divorce papers and didn't even fight for custody. It was as if he started a new life and completely erased the old one. It took years of therapy to feel normal again, to stop checking that woman's social media and comparing myself to her. The fact that she's very pretty and charming didn't help. His family loved her, and as disgusting as it sounds, one of our common friends even said it out loud. I don't support cheating, but I mean, look at her. When I told her about the cheating, I guess that's what everyone was thinking. This one was just stupid enough to voice it out. So I had to cut off that group of friends too. They got married 3 years ago and now have a daughter. A picture-perfect little family. The current arrangement is that our son stays with my ex on weekends and holidays, which works fine for the most part. Last week, I found out my sister, 28 female, has been in touch with my ex all these years. That would have been forgivable since they were close when we were married and she saw him as a brother. But she's actually best friends with his new wife and she kept it from me for 6 years. I only found out because she left her phone at my house and I saw several texts from the wife. When I asked her about it, she just brushed it off and said it wasn't a big deal. I told her she can do what she wants, but I will be cutting her off completely. I was helping her pay her college loans, lol, and going no contact. She called me unreasonable and said I'm being petty and unable to move on from something that happened a long time ago. She also said the wife is a lovely person and a good friend. She said she will be fucked, financially speaking. I told her to go fuck herself. Somehow my parents agree with her, so am I the arsehole? So as always, there was some extra information in the comments from OP. OP's comment said, she clearly chose a side during the divorce but pretended to be on mine for the money. Another one said, it's strange and I honestly don't know what level of petty privilege this is, but no one seems to care what they did. They see 2 attractive people and act like that justifies everything. The cheating doesn't matter because they're easy to look at. If nothing else, it made it a lot easier for me to cut a lot of people out of my life. OP says again, 6 years, countless interactions, and not a word. But honestly, this woman worships my ex. From what I've heard, she pursued him despite knowing he was married, and he didn't resist. He's a despicable human being, and so is she. I thought I was done with my share of dealing with betrayals, but guess not. OP adds again, my ex and my sister were pretty close all those years we were married. I mean, she's known him since she was a kid. So they think it's not fair for me to want her to cut him off completely. I would have been fine with that, but again, she hid this for 6 years, and being close friends with his wife is just pushing it too far. I wish it was rage bait, but no, my husband really did cheat with his subordinate at work who was half his age. I never said their relationship was normal. I used people's reactions to it as a metric to weed out the ones who saw nothing wrong with it. That's the entire point. Whatever our issues are, that's still his dad who he adores. I'm capable of setting aside my feelings for the sake of my child. And someone was asking if the child knows about the affair or if the father and his new partner try to talk shit about OP to them, and OP says they haven't. He enjoys his time with them and looks forward to it. I haven't thought that long into the future. He's 10 now. Maybe when he's older I'll tell him the truth. I don't know, to be honest. Right now he's happy with whatever arrangement we have. I'm trying to put myself in OP's position and being, her sibling. Yeah, I got brothers, and if anyone betrayed them in this way, I wouldn't want anything to do with the person who did betray them. It's quite that simple, really. But the sister in this isn't just maintaining, a casual friendship with the ex. She's chosen to become besties with a woman who helped blow up their marriage, and then hid it for 6 years while taking OP's financial help. And OP having to hear this shit about, oh, she's a lovely person. Oh yeah, like, absolutely delightful if you ignore that she was pursuing a married man with a 4-year-old at the time. Really lovely, that. But OP comes in with an update and says, this is my first and last update. So I spoke to my sister again. She apologized for reacting that way the last time. Also for keeping it from me all these years. She said she didn't tell me because she knew I would ask her to choose, and she didn't want to be in that position. She said she never wanted to hurt me, but at the same time, she couldn't bring herself to walk away from the people who had been there for her. She said it never felt fair to cut him off completely. Growing up, our parents were barely around. They were always busy with work, and for a long time it was just me and my ex who were actually present in her life. It was like family to her. Then she brought up the accident she was in around 5 years ago. I knew about it, of course. She had multiple fractures, hematomas, and internal bruising. She was in the hospital for a while and bedridden for weeks. I always assumed our parents were taking care of her. I never asked, and I never really checked in. I was too busy trying to manage a recent divorce, a small child, a career, and whatever was left of my mental health. She said it was my ex's wife who stepped up. She took her to every appointment, picked up prescriptions, brought food, helped her move around, stayed with her when she couldn't be alone, and at one point she said, I know it hurt you, but she was there. He was there. You weren't. You didn't even come to the hospital. I thought I was gonna die, and you didn't even show up. She cried while telling me all this. She said she still wants a relationship with me, but she's not going to cut them off. She also said she's fine with me not helping her with the loans anymore. She's planning to get a part-time job and figure it out herself. She told my ex and the wife about our conversation. Apparently they offered to help her financially, but she turned it down too. I just listened, and I told her she's free to do whatever she wants, and so am I, and to never call me again. So that's where we are. OP adds 2 more comments. One said, I had a 5-year-old, a full-time job, and a brain that was barely holding it together. I texted her, but no, I didn't go to the hospital. I assumed our parents were taking care of her. I was wrong. I'm not defending it. And the last comment said, she said they were friends before the accident. She was cordial to her. They only became close after the accident. And there was a mix of comments below this one. Some people saying that they can see OP's point of view, that they had to look after themselves. Some comments not understanding how she couldn't even visit her sister while she was in the hospital, and understanding why the sister may have made this attachment to the ex and his new wife. But what do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it if it was you? Do you think that relationship is at its end? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from A.H. Layton, who says, would I be the arsehole if I stopped supporting my disabled father over his preferential treatment towards my siblings? I, 26 male, have 2 sisters, 18 and 23, from the same mum and dad, 50s. When I was 16, my parents went through a messy divorce, which resulted in my sisters staying with my mum, and I stayed with my dad. My dad is disabled and has been unable to work due to the longest list of medical issues since I was 16. He has kidney failure and is currently on dialysis while waiting for a transplant. This has meant that I have been looking after him in a variety of caretaker ways for a decade now. Throughout this time, his contact with my 2 sisters has been minimal. He has in the past allowed my eldest sister to claim benefits that she was not entitled to by claiming to be a carer for my father, amongst others. She has at no point in her life provided care for my dad. This caused many fights between my dad and I, as I felt he was allowing her to commit fraud just so he could feel like he was helping her. I was recently contacted by his doctor, who told me that my dad was no longer on the transplant list to receive the kidney transplant he needs. Apparently his health is now so poor that they don't know for sure if he'll survive general anesthetic for the op. I was told that a major factor for this was his poor diet, which was exacerbating his existing health issues. Hearing this, my wife and I decided to move back in with my dad to try and get him onto a healthier diet to hopefully prepare his body for the transplant he needs. After we moved in, I was going through his most recent letters when I discovered a letter informing him that my youngest sister had applied for a grant for young carers as a result of caring for him. My dad is lucky to see my sister once a month, let alone the 16 hours a week this grant requires. I confronted him, and he said he was just trying to help her out in any way he could. This again led to a massive fight, as currently me and my wife are the only family members supporting him. My sisters do nothing for him. They are both adults, and yet neither has lifted a single finger once to help him. And yet, here he is again, essentially committing fraud to help them out. We can't help but feel taken for granted and simply underappreciated. We do everything we possibly can for him, sacrifice our time, energy, and money to ensure he has a more comfortable life. But time and again, he chooses to focus his energy on helping my sisters cheat their way to funds and benefits they don't deserve. He never once asked them to help him, so the burden of responsibility for his care rests entirely on our shoulders. Despite the fact that of the 3 siblings, I'm the only one not actively receiving any benefit related to his care. We're now at a point where we're considering pulling all our support, financial and physical, and leaving his care entirely to the 2 women who are actually benefiting from providing it. Would I be the arsehole for withdrawing support from my father? Someone in the comments says, as someone who is highly familiar with this family dynamic and has read a lot of books about this, let me rephrase the question. Would I be the arsehole if I withdraw my underappreciated long-term support from my dad, who has been deliberately neglecting me the entire time, or passing all my benefits to my absent but entitled siblings, who don't even see him often? Then says not the arsehole. It's not your fault that he is knowingly applying double standards, rewarding the neglect of his favorites and grooming them to be entitled, punishing and invalidating the sacrifice of his designated scapegoat. He cannot have it both ways. It's time to set things straight. 1, if he truly appreciates your efforts, then he should have given the benefits to you. 2, if he wants to give the benefits to others, then you should pass the responsibility to them. The ones who answered "you're the arsehole" or "everyone sucks here" are probably not from toxic families. The toxic parents who are neglecting but quick to demand the scapegoat's child's perfection and time, energy, and money. It is easy to use compassion and taking care of the elderly to guilt someone into staying in their unfair setup when it doesn't involve any sacrifice on your part. Edit to address a comment below. 1. My conclusion is based on the information presented. He's neglected of himself while he feels entitled to designated scapegoat's time, money, and energy to cater for his needs, or giving nothing in return and choosing to glorify and prioritize the other children instead. Equals neglect and lack of gratitude. It's not extrapolation, it is deduction. 2. It is not about whether the actual monetary value is big. It is about the unfair treatment, the invalidation, the double standards. We all have difficulties and insecurities, but they are not an excuse to deliberately treat others horribly. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. I'm not sure I'd be able to stop caring for him, but the petty bitch in me would be contacting whoever portions out those grants to let them know the truth. Pretty fucked up that they're comfortable taking that money when it should be going to the people who are actually carers and would need it. Maybe says exactly my thoughts too. If it was only them it impacted, I'd have reported it immediately, but unfortunately there's a chance he'd lose his benefits too as a result of it. Personally, I just can't wrap my head around the kind of person who's okay with taking money meant for carers with zero intention to actually care for anyone. The entitlement is unreal and absolutely infuriating at the same time. The thought of these two taking money or barely visiting him and are comfortable with that is just sickening. You know, it's not helpful that obviously he's sending all this money to them in the first place. But wow. OP adds another comment and says, I will say that during uni, I did qualify for a low-income support grant as my dad was my sole parent supporting me. Mum wanted nothing to do with me, so I did receive that in help. That's about it though. I know that I have no responsibility to help and that ultimately, I'm only doing this because I love him. But that's what makes the decision all the harder. I've been the only one willing to help, so I really worry for how much long-term damage will be done to his health as a result of pulling support. OP adds another comment and says the current boundary we set with him was to tell my youngest sister that he won't assist her in getting the carer support that she applied for unless she actually comes round and helps him. That was yesterday, and he still hasn't spoken with her. If he can't do that, then the balance of support/don't support would definitely shift more towards don't support. OP says again, we're comfortably financially and are no longer students, so we're no longer eligible for any financial support. I've never received any benefits for his care though, due to being in full-time education at the time. The rules around this may have changed now. I've repeatedly asked my sisters to help my dad, with specific reference to the benefits they receive as a result of his disability. The response every time has been a, fuck off, this is between me and dad, I don't give a fuck what you think. Paraphrased, but not far off. OP says again, I wish he would convince them to help him financially, but it'll never happen. He refused to in the past, as he sees that as hurting them. He does feel guilt at not providing for them, but they live with my mother who was and is comfortably middle/upper class, with no concerns for money whatsoever, so they're not dependent. I've also received a grant for low-income support for uni, as he was the only parent I had supporting me, nothing else. My eldest sister also received this, but putting him down as a sole parent despite living with my well-off mother, as well as a car that he receives for his care. I was expecting to receive this car, significantly cheaper rental and insured compared to normal, and then use it for us while I live with them, but he instead decided to give it to my sister when she passed her test first, and then refused to take it back and give it to me. The car is supposed to be exclusively for his care and nothing else. In the 4 years she has had it, she has never used it for him once, although she does pay the rental for it. The support my youngest sister is requesting will not impact me, but will be another instance of him willing to bend over backwards and break the law to help them, despite nothing in return. I will say that my attitude towards them getting benefits they don't deserve and aren't entitled to is definitely impacted by our upbringing. Post-divorce, I lived with my dad, whose sole income was benefits. We lived in poverty but made do as best as we could. My mother, however, is fairly successful in her career and lives a very comfortable life with enough of her own income, let alone combined with her husband. To give my sisters everything they could want and more. She has contributed nothing to me financially since the age of 16 and was even claiming childcare from my dad for my sisters, despite us being in poverty. So with that in mind, to see them try to feign poverty and pretend to be poor despite being comfortably upper middle class just sickens me. My father enables that behavior. And what has it gotten him? One daughter who won't even call him on his birthday, and another who calls him twice a month and that's it. I want him to actually stand up to them and go, if you're willing to claim money off the back of my illness, then you can come and help me with it. As otherwise the entirety of that caregiving burden falls on me and my wife. And quite frankly, we're sick of it being that way. It was 4 years later. OP comes in with their update and says, I remembered this post as my dad's birthday recently passed and thought I might as well give an update, even though no one asked. In January 23, my father passed away from complete kidney failure. It wasn't a surprise to me. His health had been in decline and a transplant wasn't going to happen. The rest of the family, though, was shocked. The last time he spoke to anyone, I showed him the 7-week scan of my now 2-year-old son, his first and only grandchild. We rushed to get the earliest scan we could, knowing he didn't have much time. My son looked like a seahorse tadpole. He cried when I showed him, and we had a short talk about fatherhood before exhaustion took over. He fell asleep and never woke up. I asked him not to tell anyone since we were still early and didn't want to jinx it. He said, I'll take it to the grave, and passed away 3 days later. He kept his word. I think seeing the scan and having that moment made him die happy. As for my sisters, they never changed. I let it go. I knew I couldn't change my dad and he was on borrowed time. For his birthday that year, we rented a canal boat since he'd always wanted one. He crashed it almost immediately. They gave him less and less consideration, ignoring him completely on what turned out to be his last birthday. No visit, no call, not even a text. He was devastated and reduced contact with them, though he never stopped helping them financially. When they found out he was dying, they rushed to his side and stayed until he passed. But like before, it was too little, too late. He was already unconscious. They hadn't showed urgency when he was first admitted, only showing up when I told them he had chosen to end life support. I'd been told the day he was admitted, over 2 weeks earlier, that he might not survive. I believed it. I'd seen him in these situations before, and this time felt different. The rest of the family still thought he would recover and didn't treat him as a priority. Eventually, my dad asked me if he was dying. Everyone else had been giving him false hope, mostly for themselves. So I had to tell him, yes, you're going to die soon. That was not an easy conversation. He passed surrounded by family who barely gave him their time when he was alive. My sisters definitely regret how they treated him, but it's too late. We were civil at the funeral but haven't spoken since. I scattered my share of his ashes at the end of the canal he never got to see. My sisters turned theirs into jewelry. I miss him every day, especially as his grandson looks so much like him. It's a shame things never got resolved with his daughters while he was alive, but I think he died a happy man, and that's enough for me.
Oof, that's absolutely rough, but I'm glad that OP in the end got some closure and, got to see his dad happy in those final moments with the picture of the grandchild. It certainly brought me back, the whole caregiving situation and knowing when the time is coming. You can sort of feel it, and I knew that with my dad when he was passing. For me, in the end, it was a relief in the end that he was out of pain. I can't speak for OP. I don't know how they completely felt at the end. It sounded like, there was some sort of, not relief, but closure for OP. But when you're caregiving, watching someone decline, well, there's family members around taking advantage, it's got to be hard. And the sisters expressing their regret how they treated him, being too late, it's a consequence of their actions in the end. Incredibly sad. You sound like a good son who just wanted the best for his dad, regardless of what was going on around it all. And, I think that's pretty admirable. Oh dear, that one set me off. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.